can get Sydney Mitchell, typically a very dependable free throw shooter. In fact, during the season, she had a streak in which she made 20 of 21, but she's already missed a couple in this game. Thomas swings it to Herring. Herring going against Nixon, then Wiss, the rebound, and a foul against Austin Peay. And I think Herring, no, they're saying it's going to go against,
is it Herring or Jamin?
I think Jamin. The officials, they turn their hands sideways, and I can't see if they're showing 3-3 or 3-4, and I think it was 3-4.
Nice job here of Herring, taking it to the basket. Just a little hard. I think they're going to call it on Jamin for over the back.
So a chance now for Mitchell to reclaim that shooting stroke that's usually dependable at the free throw line, and Sydney knocks that through. A 75% free throw shooter on the season is Carrie Daniels on the sideline having a discussion with the junior guard out of Cynthiana, Kentucky, which I believe is the same hometown as Joby Hall, the former head coach of the University of Kentucky, who led the Wildcats to the '78 national championship. Austin Peay dumping it into the hands of Jamin, who's out on the front court, and Will Perdue picks up his first loose ball.
Well, I always had good hands.
You know, that looked like a softball in your hands, Will.
Look at this. The girls' ball is slightly smaller.
Will, nice work, guys. The bad news is Will was posting me up and threw an elbow right in my chin. Like your days with the Bulls. Floater, no good for Darcy Warner. The rebound turns into a traveling violation. So just when it looked like Brady Sally's team was going to catch some momentum, they can't seem to catch a break, and he has a chagrined look on his face as he goes over and has a little chat with Bruce Morris.
Well, I think he's trying to tell the official that the reason why Sydney Mitchell traveled is because she got pushed from behind after she grasped the rebound.
Faulkner floats, can't get it to the basket, but she is going to get a couple more shots.
Well, Mariah King that time was a little late on the help, and once Brooke Faulkner got up in the air, Mariah King came under and tried to slide up underneath over to take the charge.
Brady Sally played baseball at Thomas More, where he was a pitcher. Faulkner gets her first free throw.
And I've been impressed with Faulkner. Remember, she picked up 2 fouls early in this game. One of them a frustration foul after a turnover. But she went to the bench. Carrie Daniels, remember we had a picture of her talking to her. She's regained her composure, and then ever since she's been back on the floor, she's been very aggressive.
Faulkner's got 5 points, 30-16. Eastern Illinois down 14 with 90 seconds to go in the half. Nixon is turned back. Mitchell. Now it's Nixon again. Her shot was altered as Jamin got a hand on it, and the foul's going to go against Rayner. She checks right back into the ballgame and picks up her second foul, so she may be heading back for a seat on the bench.
I tell you, when you look at Takenya Nixon, if you want to judge her by her height, you're making a huge mistake, because that time she just took it right into the teeth of the Austin Peay defense. She doesn't care who's there. If you're moving and you're not set, she's going to look to attack you and try to get that foul and possibly the three-point play.
Nixon is 0 for 3 shooting from the field. She's 2 of 2 at the free throw line, and a young lady that's averaging 14 points a game now, 3 of 3 at the free throw line, is needing to get her offense on track to help this team.
Well, even though she's a true freshman, she's the leader of this team, Gary, and she's been the one during free throws and during timeouts who's kind of been talking to her teammates one by one, you know, working on things we need to do and try to kind of get them motivated and get them into the game.
Sloppy handoff up top, but Warner hangs on to it.
But the one thing Eastern is doing is slowly chipping into this lead, but they are now mentally back into this game. They've actually picked up the intensity physically and are now matching the intensity of Austin Peay.
Once again on the attack, the defensive player of the year, they kick it to Thomas, who splashes down a 3 and shows some emotion.
But that starts off with the penetration by Takenya Nixon. When she penetrates, the defense collapses, and a nice job of throwing the ball to the top and then making that extra pass to find the open player on the wing. Defensive
stand here, and the Panthers have a chance going into the halftime locker room down single digits. Defensive stand successful. Now, what can they do in the last half minute of the first half of the OVC championship game? The shot goes up, and the foul is going to be called against Darcy Warner as Nixon is turned back.
But Nixon has the ability, when she has the ball in her hands, Gary, to change gears. And that time as she comes down, she gets Ashley Herring to actually stop by the basket. She does a little jump stop and then gets into Herring's body. And we talk about this all the time. A lot of times if the offensive player can create the contact, they can actually get the foul call in their favor and get themselves to the free throw line, and that's what you saw Kenya Nixon do that time.
Panther Nation starting to feel it. Their team trailing this entire ball game. I think he's going to turn green and bust right out of that shirt. It's a 30-22 ball game for Austin Peay State University.
Well, let's go back to the previous timeout, Gary. There was 3:55 remaining when there was a TV timeout. And Austin Peay was up 28-13. And one of the things that Brady Sally was talking to his team about was, as he continued to look up at the clock during that timeout, he's like, all right, we're down 15. Over this next 4 minutes, what I want you guys to do is let's try to cut into that lead and get it down to single digits, 5 or 6, and he'd be very happy. Well, right now they've got it down to 8. And over this next 24 seconds, if they can possibly make a stop and score on the other end, they've made that accomplishment. And even though they may be down going into the locker room, I think they now have momentum on their side. But what they can't do now is let Austin Peay come down the floor and score.
You saw that stat, an 11-2 Eastern Illinois scoring run has got this down to an 8-point game. As we're heading toward locker room time, Austin Peay has a big problem getting it inbounds, and it's stolen away as Eastern Illinois' Nixon gets her own miss.
Still plenty of time, no need to panic.
Back it goes to Presley for 3. And this time Faulkner comes away with the, or excuse me, not Faulkner, but Busebarger comes away with the rebound. Into the corner, Warner. And that's how 20 minutes of basketball ends here in Nashville. Austin Peay. Right now we're trying to find the champs of the OVC.
Now we saw early that the Eastern Illinois team was going inside to 41 Maggie Cloak. She scored 4 points early, but then they changed up the defense, Austin Peay did, and she hasn't scored since then. Then you also saw Nixon giving it to Sims for the layup. Then you also saw number 4, Kelsley Wiss, who now has only 2 points, but did a good job that time of attacking the basket. And then Eastern started to do a good job, match the intensity of Austin Peay early, and now has been able to cut this to only an 8-point deficit. But early on, we saw Jamin in the post, nice little roll. But then at the same time, one of the players we didn't know about was Ashley Herring. She twisted her ankle in practice on Wednesday before Austin Peay got here. She's done a nice job of recovering. But then it was the aggression early of Austin Peay that kind of got Eastern back on their heels. And again, there you see Ashley Herring. She finishes that half with 8 points, 3 rebounds. A nice job that time. And we talked earlier about Jamin was having some trouble inside the paint, so she decided to go out and use her mid-range jump shot. She's knocked down 3 of those.
Well, let's take a look at the stats from this ball game as Carrie Daniels high-fives her team, and she'd be high-fiving the stat guy right now as they're leading at 32. Will, as you look at this collection of numbers, what should we pay closer attention to?
Well, I think it's what we don't have on here is the fact that you see the 10 turnovers for Eastern Illinois, Gary.
Yeah.
Of those 10 turnovers, Austin Peay has been able to convert that into 13 points, whereas Austin Peay has 7 turnovers, and Eastern Illinois has only been able to convert that into 2 points. What we've seen here is the aggression and the early attack of Austin Peay kind of knocked Eastern back on their heels, and now the Eastern has finally stepped up and matched the aggression. And we saw this yesterday for Eastern Illinois when they played UT Martin. Coach Brady Sally talked about how I had to go in and settle these girls down and remind them that say, hey, we're the better team here. Let's play like it.
But we want to certainly thank the OVC staff who's been more than accommodating to the Wazoo Sports Network this week. It starts with Commissioner Beth DeBush, Brad Walker, Jennifer Gibbs, Kyle Schwartz, Brian Pulley, Matthew Banker, Heather Brown, Grant Finley, and Vicki Arias. Guys, thank you so much for making this a successful weekend stay on the Wazoo Sports Network. Stay with us, second half coming up. Austin Peay leading Eastern Illinois.
and 55 seconds by Eastern Illinois of kind of settling down, finishing on a 9-2 run to get themselves back into this game. Let's see who starts out as the aggressor here in the second half.
Been about 5 minutes now since Austin Peay has scored a field goal, and I'm not counting overtime, or excuse me, halftime. What I'm talking about is just regular clock time. And quickly a turnover, and the Panthers come out with a defensive intensity turned up. That is Takenya Nixon, the freshman guard out of Indiana. Little weave up top. Nixon tries to dump it down on the low post, can't get it. Sims. Presley, and there's a violation that's going to go against Austin Peay on the defensive side. I think. Did they say Jamin? I couldn't hear who the call was against, Will. It was against Jamin, her second. Presley's pull-up, no good. Jamin stronger to the ball again.
Nice job by Herring, though, using the lower body, hands straight up in the air, kind of knocked the shooter off balance.
Faulkner gets it over to Hanley from Bullitt East High School, just outside of Louisville in Mount Washington, Kentucky. Herring. Now it's Jamin. Shot clock in single digits. Hanley bounces her way into the lane. Held ball. Possession arrow is going to give it to Eastern Illinois.
But how about Jamin, though? Goes in there amongst 4 Panthers. Gets her hands on the ball, just can't quite secure it. But even though they didn't get the rebound, now that the next time there's a jump ball or a held possession, that's when Austin Peay will reap the benefits of that rebound.
Nixon going right to the hole. She's unstoppable, and that is her first field goal of the ball game. 6 free throws now to go along with that basket for 8 points for the OVC Freshman of the Year.
Well, the one thing you ask as a coach, if the player gets by the initial line of defense, where's the help? That time the help never showed up for Austin Peay.
Eastern Illinois extending the defense. Raymer comes away with a loose ball. Now it's Herring who's frustrated. Faulkner fires and connects.
But it's the penetration of Herring, collapses the defense, and then she does a nice job of finding Faulkner on the perimeter.
Nixon going back again. This time she forced the foul even though she didn't get the basket.
But again, we talk about it, and this is unbelievable for the composure that a true freshman shows for Takenya Nixon. She gets, again, past the initial line of defense, and before the help shows up, she actually jumps into the chest of Whitney Hanley and creates the contact herself, gets the call, here's the whistle, and then just throws the ball up at the basket.
That's the second foul on Hanley, and that is the 10th point for Takenya Nixon.
And how about this? We saw this yesterday against UT Martin, just kind of changing things up. Eastern Illinois comes out in the press.
Herring trying to run past 3 Panthers. She clears that obstacle. The bounce pass into Rayner.
Kind of threw a bad pass at Rayner's feet. Luckily, it looked like it went off one of the Eastern Illinois Panther players.
Herring will inbound it beneath her own basket. Rayner comes to get it. Faulkner, who just knocked down the 3. Spins in from about 8. That's no good. The rebound is Nixon's. Bounce pass finished. You betcha.
Nice
Dominique
job.
Sims.
And that's what we talked about earlier, because Austin Peay with Rayner and Jamin, and that time Faulkner took the ball at the basket. They had 3 players below the free throw line looking at the offensive rebound. Nixon picks that up, does a nice job of attracting the defense and then finding the open player on the left side.
Austin Peay led by 17. It's only 5, and now back to 7.
Nice job by Rayner, just getting her composure and then knocking down the shot. That time Austin Peay did a much better job of sprinting back on defense, not allowing Takenya Nixon to get in the paint.
Dumping it down to Cloak. Cloak's left-hander goes in.
Just like we saw early in this game in the